I've got a Mark V Golf with the key jammed in the ignition in the on position. Instead of trying to take out the shear bolts and replace the ignition barrel, what I've done to get around the problem is I have dropped down the control module underneath the steering wheel, drilled up into the aluminium housing of the barrel, fished out the broken pieces of the steering lock with a piece of wire and reassembled it. So you can see it's all back to normal now. I don't have a steering lock, but I have the car going again. So from the top, the first thing I have to do is to stop the car running because it's running at the moment in the driveway. I drove it home. So the best thing to do is to pull out one of the petrol pump relays. There's two of them, but the easiest one is the one in the engine. So I'll show you that. Disconnecting the battery alone won't be enough to stop the engine running because it's already being supplied with power from the alternator. But it's very important that you disconnect the battery before you start fiddling around with electronic parts of the car, especially when you're working close to airbags. What I am going to do though is I'm going to disconnect the relay switch here, which is number 458. The position in the Golf is the same, but the number may vary. It'll take a couple of seconds for the engine to cut out, and then we'll put the relay back again, lest we forget. You could also disconnect the petrol pump relay switch, which is inside behind the small glove compartment underneath the steering wheel, but the other one is easier to get at. This one here is number 449. You can just pull that out, but I think the other one is easier to remove. So to continue on from where we've done our time jump, first thing we do is just pop up the housing. You can see the two green clips there that hold it in. They just pop out. For the bottom housing, we'll remove these three Torque screws. There's two each side of the steering wheel and one underneath this flap here. We're also going to have to remove the top of the key because the housing won't fit out over it. So there's two options. One is to pop out this pin here, or the other is to open the screw and take apart the top part of the key. I'm going to try popping out the pin first with the aid of a jewelry screwdriver and a vice grips. Another option, if you don't like the hammering, is to take apart the key itself with this screw. Just open the screw. And just a word of caution here, remember to be very careful not to lose any of the parts, because inside here you've got the key coding chip and springs and stuff as well, so they're very important. And towards the end of the video I reassembled this key. And I'm going to use a 1.5mm Allen key to slide in here into the ignition to remove it. The hole and this marker will align when the ignition is in the on position. Takes a little bit of fiddling. And press in this little clip here to release the ignition. Now before you take the rest out, you have to work out this little plastic circlip. And remember, when you're putting it back in, those little fingers face outwards. This part here may take a bit of fiddling and rocking of the steering in order to release the steering lock if it's jammed. And now I just have to fish out a little bit of the steering lock that has broken down into the barrel. Broken. Spring out. Spring. As you can see, the steering lock has broken down into the ignition barrel. So instead of removing the steering wheel and the deadbolts, I'm going to drop down the steering wheel control module, and as you can see, that'll give me access to underneath where I can drill a hole up into the barrel and take out the steering lock that way. I used a small Torx head with a vice grips to remove the small screw that's in the front of the control module. This fitted up in behind the steering wheel, so I didn't have to remove the steering wheel. And reach your fingers in at the back of the module to try and press in that clip to release that, and used the 1.5mm Allen key again to slide in through this hole here at the front of the module to press in this second clip here marked in green. I started by drilling the hole up into the aluminium body and probably could have finished it by doing that as well, but I decided to use this multi-tool as well. Needless to say, I'm wearing goggles. Very important. And there it is. And now that I've got that out, I'm going to reassemble the ignition. There.
get some firewood, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got what you call it, single briquettes, but